Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
The history of the Americas is filled with the stories of indigenous nations, their resilience, and their struggles against colonial oppression. Among these histories, some narratives remain largely obscured, shrouded in mystery, and often erased from mainstream discourse. The story of the Black Skarure, a unique community of the Carolinas, is one such hidden chapter in the history of North America. Emerging at the intersection of indigenous and African cultures, the Black Skarure were a distinct people whose resilience against enslavement, forced displacement, and cultural erasure remains an extraordinary testament to the human will to survive and preserve identity. Long before European contact, the Skarure, better known as the Tuscarora, were one of the powerful Iroquois-speaking tribes of the Southeast. They thrived in what is now North Carolina, living in well-organized villages, practicing agriculture, and engaging in regional trade. However, with the arrival of Europeans, everything changed. The transatlantic slave trade, land dispossession, and colonial warfare reshaped the fabric of the Tuscarora people, leading to forced migrations and alliances that forged new identities. One of the most remarkable developments during this turbulent period was the emergence of the Black Skarure, a people of Tuscarora and African heritage who carved out a place for themselves amid the shifting political landscape of the Carolinas. This article delves into the origins, struggles, and cultural heritage of the Black Skarure, uncovering their role in the resistance against colonial oppression and their enduring legacy in American history. To understand the Black Skarure, one must first explore the early history of the Tuscarora people. As part of the Iroquois language family, the Tuscarora were closely related to the Five Nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy in the Northeast. Their lands stretched across the coastal plains and river valleys of what is now North Carolina, where they cultivated corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters of indigenous agriculture. When Europeans arrived in the late 16th and early 17th centuries, the Tuscarora initially engaged in trade with the newcomers. However, the demand for enslaved labor in the colonial economy soon led to the exploitation of indigenous peoples, including the Tuscarora, who were captured and sold into slavery. At the same time, enslaved Africans were being brought to the Carolinas in increasing numbers. It was within this context that African and Tuscarora lives began to intertwine, leading to the formation of mixed heritage communities. By the late 1600s and early 1700s, the Tuscarora were embroiled in a series of conflicts with European settlers over land encroachments and the enslavement of their people. The Tuscarora War, 1711 to 1713, was a defining moment in their history as they fought to repel colonial expansion. In the aftermath of their defeat, many Tuscarora migrated northward to join the Haudenosaunee Confederacy in New York, becoming the sixth nation of the Iroquois League. However, not all Tuscarora left. Some remained in the Carolinas, where they forged new communities, often intermingling with escaped African slaves who sought refuge among them. These groups formed the foundation of what became known as the Black Skarure. The Black Skarure existed in a precarious position within colonial society. As people of both indigenous and African descent, they were subject to multiple forms of oppression. Enslaved Africans who found refuge among the Tuscarora often faced the constant threat of recapture by colonial authorities. Meanwhile, the remnants of the Tuscarora who remained in the South faced increasing pressure from European settlers who sought to take over their lands. To survive, the Black Skarure developed strategies of resistance, adaptation, and concealment. Some formed maroon communities deep in the swamps and forests, where they could live beyond the reach of colonial powers. These hidden settlements became strongholds of cultural preservation, where African and Tuscarora traditions merged into a unique way of life. Others integrated into the broader networks of free Black and indigenous peoples, using their knowledge of the land to participate in trade, hunting, and subsistence farming. They formed alliances with other marginalized groups, including runaway slaves and members of the Lumbee and Saponi nations, further solidifying their presence in the region. Despite their efforts to remain free, colonial governments passed laws aimed at criminalizing their existence. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, race-based laws increasingly sought to define and segregate people along rigid racial lines, making life even more difficult for mixed-heritage communities like the Black Skarure. The Black Skarure left an enduring cultural legacy that continues to be felt in the Carolinas today. Their traditions, language, and stories have been passed down through generations, even as official histories have attempted to erase their contributions. Many descendants of the Black Skarure continue to live in North Carolina and surrounding states, though they often face challenges in gaining formal recognition as an indigenous people. The persistence of oral traditions among Tuscarora descendants has helped to keep the story of the Black Skarure alive. Songs, dances, and spiritual practices reflect the fusion of African and Tuscarora heritage, demonstrating the resilience of a people who refuse to be erased. Some modern-day tribal groups and historians are working to reclaim this history, advocating for greater awareness and recognition of the Black Skarure's role in shaping the region's past. The story of the Black Skarure is one of survival, adaptation, and resistance. Born out of the brutal realities of colonialism and slavery, they carved out a place for themselves in a world that sought to erase them. Despite facing immense challenges, they preserved their culture and identity, leaving a legacy that deserves to be acknowledged and honored. As we continue to uncover the hidden histories of the Americas, it is crucial to recognize the contributions of mixed-heritage communities like the Black Skarure. Their story serves as a reminder of the complex and interconnected histories that define the United States and challenges us to expand our understanding of Indigenous and African American history beyond the boundaries imposed by colonial narratives.